Today I visit with Trent Clark about college student athletes and
Hello, everyone.
NILs.
This is Tom Fox back for another episode. We're going to go in a little bit different direction today because I have Trent Clark. And Trent is, I'm going to say performance coach, but that really doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. And he works with young athletes and helps them not just with athletic performance, and I hate to say life performance, but maybe business performance. And that's what really intrigued me about your story, Trent. So I hope that introduction was close to, but if it isn't, you'll tell me. But welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Tom, for having me. Super excited to join you. That is exactly what we do. We do a little life coaching, but it's really around entrepreneurship, right? This NIL has brought a whole new opportunity in to the young athletes. And what I love about it is I've seen so many people just go online and telling young adults, hey, start your own company. It's easy. Get a website. You'll make millions. And I'm like, man, that's so not true. We know that only 3.4% of all businesses in North America make $1 million top line revenue. So that is not the standard. And very similarly in NIL, in the name, image, likeness world of college athletics, this is a side hustle. It's a business, and kids have to treat it as such. And so we're educating them on how do you do this really well and learn a ton of things along the way. They're going to make them just more opportunistic, more valued contributors to businesses like your own, Tom, and other people once they leave all their collegiate training and head out into the career world.
Trent, why don't you tell us a little bit about your academic and professional background?
Yeah, so went to the University of Toledo, played both tennis and baseball there, got an education degree, never actually taught in a school other than substitute teaching. I coached immediately following my college playing days and got a job with the Detroit Tigers. I coached for the Tigers, then I coached with Coach Saban up at Michigan State, both he and Tom Izzo's first year as a strength and conditioning and a performance coach there. And then I went back to pro ball with the Cleveland Indians and went to the World Series twice with them, and then headed out to Anaheim and signed with the Angels and spent 7 years out there with Coach Mike Scioscia and Joe Madden and Bud Black, and just tons of great staff members that won a world championship with them out in '02. And that was a good year. And so meanwhile, I was invested in businesses. My father was an accountant. I was investing in entrepreneurship, diversifying portfolio and learning business from the ground up.
Before we get to the business part of your business, why don't you tell us a little bit about AIM, your company, and how you help
Yeah, Athletic
athletes achieve
Influencer
their goals?
Marketing. We are an education company. We help young athletes and their families and the coaches and the athletic departments get educated about name, image, likeness, education, and how that can be done very well. And we promote really the 565,000 college athletes that aren't signing for $1 million on something, right? That the kids are going to go learn some skills about branding and customer service and sales and marketing, and being it down to the micro level of I have two major markets in order to do business with. One is my hometown, and the other is the alumni and college atmosphere of where I go to school. Sometimes that's the same place for some athletes, but for most of us, we don't go to university in our hometowns. So we have a loyal following of hometown people that know a little bit of notoriety of our skill sets from our high school and local days. And then we head off into a university that's now promoting our skill sets and our name, image, likeness on another level in a new town, often bigger towns. And so there's a lot of business centered around the universities, and the influencer atmosphere for marketing is really good. So if kids are on social media, name, image, likeness is about 83% social media marketing. So if people have a following and they want to be in that social space, it's real opportunity for people out there, Tom.
So, Trent, most of my listeners are corporate types in this podcast. And what really struck me about what you do and doing a little research to prepare for this podcast is you're training young people all the way through college age people to promote themselves. And that's a life skill. And I train people in the corporate world. You have to market yourself. You have to put your name out there. You have to do an NIL. You have to be a thought leader. And so, what really intrigued me is the skills you're teaching younger people are going to translate into the corporate world. Would that be a fair assessment of what?
Yeah, I think that's perfect, Tom. What a great skill set. I think when these athletes leave university and they do this really well, and let's say they make $50,000 total revenue in their collegiate career from name, image, likeness. First of all, that's a lot of money. I never made 12 or $15,000 a year when I was playing. I mean, on the side. So that's real money for a college athlete and someone who's trying to work, because being an athlete's almost a full-time job. And so then I'm a full-time student, and now I'm going to run this. So the skill sets that are developed out of these young athletes. I have talked to many people. I have a podcast called Winners Find a Way, and I had interviewed the former president of Amway North America. And he said, man, I really look for college athletes to hire because they really understand time management. They understand coaching. They understand failure and getting back up and doing it again. And that's not always going to be perfect. And they understand that they got to find a way to win. And sometimes you're losing and you got to adapt the program and adapt your way of doing things. And so now I think about that approach from a corporate standpoint, two sides of the corporate standpoint, which is one, these athletes are great influencers, and someone who got a chance to be with an athlete for a very low rate, such as like one of the ball players on the basketball team at Florida Atlantic University, that you could have got a deal for $1,000 a month with one of these great college basketball players. And then they end up in the final game of the championship for the Final Four in March Madness. That would have yielded millions of dollars of return on that athlete because they were so popular for this 4 to 6 week period. It just gets crazy. And so there's really low entries. And so the influencer side from a marketing standpoint is big for corporate if you can find that dynamic. And all the audiences are right there inside the social. So they know if they're going after someone, they can choose athletes with their dynamic. And then two is what these athletes come out with skills, because I'd put these athletes who have done and run a business on the side here, I would put them ahead of 99% of all college students, not just college athletes. There's 570,000 of them, but there's millions of college students. And these athletes will be far ahead in the world of contributing to a major organization, having these skill sets, having done this.
Trent, let me pick up on something you started this podcast with, which was essentially very few, you can make $1 million. Very few people make $1 million. But what I saw, and like I said, researching a little bit, is I saw the ability to have a steady income that could supplement either as a college athlete, what you're getting via a scholarship, but more importantly, you could create several different streams of income, and $1, $2, $5,000 a month can really give a person flexibility and freedom to do lots of different things when they're out in the work world. So I was really struck by that message because I found that true for me as well. Does that message really resonate, or do people just see millions of dollars in front of them and go for that?
No, I don't think the message, Tom, you really picked up on that one. I don't think that message does resonate with people today because they aren't being taught that's what they should look for. They're being taught big home runs on ESPN. Look at this great gymnastics move that no one else can do because it's a one-time ESPN. Look at this incredible goal that someone scored. It's like these one-time $1 million unicorns everybody's going for. But the blocking and tackling, the fundamentals are exactly what you said. 3 or 4 streams of income, be an ambassador, get free clothes. There's a monetary value to clothes, so you don't have to buy them. I have an athlete running a program for a meal program similar to HelloFresh, and they're getting 15 meals a week. It's a college kid. I don't want to spend money on meals. So all of a sudden, I've saved that in my apartment and I'm eating better, helping me perform better as an athlete. Like, what a great alignment. And so, like you said, invest in that. There's ambassador, there's e-commerce, there's what we call monthly recurring revenues. I've got 4 brands for a young athlete, each paying this young lady $250 a month to promote their brand and promote different things socially. And she has a commission on two of those. If things sell and she uses her commission, then she has a commission on those direct sales. So she makes at minimum $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year. Then she picks up another $1,000 or $500 in commission, another $6,000 a year. So an $18,000. She's on a Title IX full ride scholarship as a young athlete. And so when she leaves college, she has the chance to probably save 40, $50,000 in a bank account after taxes. That's a pretty nice down payment on a house, Tom. That's a pretty nice way to go set yourself up in a career when one of these big corporates gets a hold of you and goes, wow, I really like this young lady. She could be great here at Gatorade and PepsiCo. Great. Here she comes in and she's got a great way to start her life getting set in, and she's got a lot of skill sets to help contribute right away, and she's not financially living out of a cardboard box because she doesn't make any money yet, because she doesn't have any experience in the corporate world. But yet here she is now. And so I just think there's real opportunity if people understand the entrepreneurial dynamic.
Do the people you, either your customers, clients, or potential customers or clients, understand the part I heard you say about blocking and tackling? And what I mean by that is learning your craft. Because if you're making $250 a month or more, perhaps not only can you make a mistake or two and it will be forgiven, but you actually learn the craft of self promoting. You learn the craft of social media marketing and you get better at it in addition to getting paid for it.
Yeah, and I think that's the huge thing right there, Tom, is that these are lifelong lessons that you're getting as a now 14, 15, 16-year-old kids are starting to get that lesson. And really what's fun for me is this is a family environment. Parents are coming alongside their children and learning this too, because what a great way to help my kid to help them get some extra money at school and learn some skills, learn about insurance, learn about taxation, learn about sales, learn about personal branding, learn about marketing, customer service, how I might close a deal. Sales is a big tool. And we're rarely taught that at university. Sales is not a big university program, yet half the people that come into certain dynamics in a degree in business go into sales. Yet we don't have any of those classes at a lot of universities. So there is a ton of learning along the way, and it's so much, and it's fun to do together. And the nice thing about it with these kids and their social, you're already there, you're already doing the thing. And what I tell kids is, hey, if I wanted to make $10,000, which I did when I was a kid in college, I went and worked a factory job in the summer. I worked landscaping in the summer. I hustled and worked pretty hard. My son just worked for 1-800 Got Junk all summer to save a lot of money for his tuition. And he busted his tail end and he earned that money. You're going to have to earn your money here. It's still a job. You're going to have to do work. And the kids who think they're going to just show up and just, oh, yeah, I'm show up. I made 2 posts and now someone's going to pay me $10,000. Like, that's not going to be how it's going to work. You're going to have to show some value to these brands and make a partnership that makes sense for a lot of people. And that's just good business, good sense, and good life skills, Tom.
Absolutely. You had a couple of phrases on your website I wanted to ask you about. Number one is, I believe you said NIL is a force for good. Why do you say that?
Yeah, that's a big deal. We're hearing a lot of the negative of NIL. Oh, it's pay to play. Athletes are just getting paid a bunch of money to go to their university of choice. And if you're a blue chip prospect in Georgia, the 2-time national champion wants you to come play, or Nick Saban wants you to come at Alabama. Man, first of all, I always thought that was a right. Wow, what a privilege that Coach Saban would want me to come play for him. That's incredible looking at his track record. But now it's this, hey, I've got bids to play. I don't know if that's true or not. But at the end of the day, there's 570,000 college athletes, and 565,000 are not going to have those kind of offers. So this NIL is for everybody. It's name, image, likeness. And the force for good is we're going to combine working with your alumni, working with local brands, learning business, learning all these things that you and I have talked about on these skill sets, Tom. And what a force for good for these young men and women to learn as they go through this college career. This is a whole new substack of skills that they're going to get from this college environment. And this isn't new, Tom. We've seen models, actors, people have been in the name, image, likeness business for a long time. It's just now come to an environment in the college. And there are some challenges, but there are some boundaries that are real. The NCAA has some boundaries around this. Submissions have to be made before you work with a company and do something. You have non-competes in certain brands. If I'm at a Nike school, they're probably not going to let me and allow an Adidas contract and let me wear Adidas shoes. That's probably not happening. So there's some boundaries put in place that are important. And so it's a bunch of good things, but at the end of the day, there is a group called NIL for Good done by the Sports Philanthropy Network where we help educate some of those athletes, and we've written a book together on this. And these athletes are creating thousands of dollars for the boys and girls clubs, passions that they're interested in that probably have served these young athletes that help them get to where they are. And now I would love to give back to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I would love to give back to this organization, this daycare that helped me get through some times when things were hard for me. There are plenty of causes, and kids are using that name, image, likeness for a lot of good. And I think we're always focused on this $1 million big headline news deal. And I don't think that's the deal at all. I think there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Trent, unfortunately, we're near the end of our time for this episode. But before we leave, I wanted to ask you if our listeners wanted more information on yourself, your company, or really any of the topics we've touched on, what might be the best place or places for them to go?
Yeah, so they can go to aim for NIL, aim number 4 NIL.com. That's an easy one. They can learn more there. I'm at Trent M. Clark on all the socials. You can also find me at Leadershipity, and aim for NIL is on our TikTok and Instagram. So you can find it out there. There's a lot of education out there for families, and I highly encourage them to go out there and get it, and for staff too.
Trent, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to visit with me, and I hope we can continue this conversation.
Thanks, Tom, for having me.
This is Tom Fox again. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Greetings and Felicitations. If you've enjoyed this episode, I hope you'll subscribe, rate, and review wherever great podcasts are listened to. Greetings and Felicitations is a special production of the award-winning Compliance Podcast Network.